The red carpet lay thin as a promise. Above us, strings of amber bulbs and a wildfire relief banner tried their best to make generosity look cinematic. The band on stage played something soft, glassware chimed like a quick summer shower. I straightened my back, fastened the last button on a black dress that didn't ask for attention, and stood with Mia behind a table displaying a silver demo drone. Ethan worked the donor crowd with a camera-ready smile, his fire-colored tux jacket turning him into a charity night firefighter. There was a different light in his eyes, one I knew too well, the light of a man who expects to control every room, including his wife's breathing. The MC invited him up. Ethan handed me a stack of note cards. "Read it exactly." "Don't add names," he whispered, each word grinding like sand on enamel. I nodded, but my eyes caught the corner of the hall where Jordan Reyes, our young engineers, stood motionless by a projector screen. Part of me wanted to herd Jordan straight to the exit. The soldier in me kept my face calm, the way training teaches you. Breathe in 4, out 4. Mia's small fingers found mine, cold as a coin. "Mom, can this drone fly over fire?" she whispered. "If the procedure's right," I said, smiling for her, not for the room. When it was my turn to thank the donors, the mic fuzzed. I followed the script for a few lines, then I saw Jordan tug his sleeve to hide a torn seam, the kind of detail that looks like smoke if you know where to look. I slipped, and our engineers, like Jordan, I never finished. Ethan took one step. His hand landed before my brain could name it. A soft, damp snap across my cheek, the way a wet towel cracks the air. Not hard enough to drop me. Cold enough to drop the room. The amber lights seemed to dim by half. Somewhere, a spoon kissed a wineglass and then thought better of it. Heads turned in unison and to knee-seeking signal. I locked my knees, MP reflex, so I wouldn't spring back. I heard my own voice, oddly steady. "Sorry." I lost the beat. I returned the mic and looked dead into the nearest camera mounted on a hall pillar. I counted where it was. Camera 3, left of the stage, eye level. Ethan dragged me behind the curtain, his smile stuck on like molded plastic. His cologne mixed with lily of the valley on my wrist. He spoke low enough to pretend intimacy. "Don't you ever embarrass me. You have no idea how these people eat each other alive, Riley." I studied the wrinkle at the corner of his mouth, the place lies exit. I didn't cry. Tears are a luxury when you've trained to shoulder a go bag and clear a danger zone in 72 seconds. I walked back out, smoothed my hair, and found Mia folded in on herself behind the display. She was hiding her trembling hand in the hem of a blue dress. I crouched to her eye level. "I'm okay. Are you okay?" She nodded, lips pinched into a lopsided heart. I led her into the light on purpose so she could see I was still a wall. On stage, Ethan grinned through mission and community responsibility, hitting his rehearsed beats like a drone circling a waypoint. Then I went to work. My brain gridded the room. Exits, cameras, witnesses, sharp objects, the tiny first aid table. Backstage, I spotted a lav mic left on, its green LED still blinking, meaning it had caught part of what he hissed behind the curtain. I palmed it like a fish that had just flipped out of the net and tucked it into my clutch. 2 donors approached with that mix of curiosity and pity people reserve for freeway accidents. I offered a regulation smile, the exact amount of warm. "Thanks for being here. My daughter loves that silver demo." They nodded and floated away, eager not to be in the photo with the problem. At the bar, Ethan's mother pressed a glass of white wine into my hand like a prop. "Sweetheart, the stage is stressful. Ethan just expects a lot." Her lashes trembled like desert dust on powder. I thanked her and didn't drink. The barracks taught me this much: don't dull your senses when you're not sure you're safe. I heard the way she said, "just a knife wrapped in velvet." Her generation folds violence into little words and files it in a kitchen drawer. Ethan glided through clusters like a competitive skater. His hand landed on the soft spot of my back, where old bruises once bloomed. "Smile," he reminded me, and the cameras popped. "The photo will look perfect later." A cheek red from a glass of wine, eyes shining from emotion, Mia's bow a patient butterfly. Somewhere behind me, Jordan's voice, very small: "Riley, you good?" I didn't turn. "I'm good," I said, loud enough for camera 3 to read my lips. A breath of desert night slid through a side door, carrying hot dust and pine sap. I noticed a schedule thumbtacked to the wall, demo flight Saturday written by hand. My grip tightened. My thumb brushed the clutch where the mic slept. I could already feel the chain this would tug, a threat, an invoice, a flight log that laughed at wind limits. In my head, a checklist assembled itself: 1. Confirm which camera caught the slap, 2. Secure backstage audio, 3. Step outside and photo the cheek on my phone, 4. Keep Mia glued to me like oxygen. When the band slowed to a country ballad, I walked Mia out to the patio for air. Brick cooled my back. I lifted my phone, flipped to the front camera, checked the redness, saved the shot. No tears. I trained myself out of shaking the day I braced a runaway pickup at the base gate. Silence is armor. I'd worn it long enough to know where all the buckles were. Ethan appeared in the doorway, his shadow long and self-important on the tile. I pocketed the phone and shifted to keep Mia behind me. "Get back in there," he said, not bothering to look at me. "Stop drawing attention." He paused, leaned in to inhale my daughter's scalp like she was another prop in his show. A cold line walked my spine. He left a trail of cologne like smoke. I held Mia and counted her breaths until they evened out. Then, almost to myself, I said, "From now on, I write everything down." Inside, I asked the temp medic for a cold compress. The room had patched itself back together with laughter, as if sound could spackle a cracked facade. By the door, Captain Winters stood, no uniform, just a fedora and the eyes of a training field. She didn't come over. She tipped the smallest nod, the kind that says, "I saw." I pulled out my phone and opened a text. My thumbs typed 2 words I hate needing but keep memorized anyway: a code Winters, and I built during drills, code Amber. I hit send. The phone buzzed once, the way a siren clears its throat. This wasn't a drill. I slipped the phone back into my clutch and returned to the amber lights, the curated laughter, the dry, cutting wind that snakes through desert doors, and the sleeping mic tucked beside my lipstick, quiet as a secret finally placed exactly where it belongs. The morning after the gala, I woke before the sun cleared the ridgeline. The horizon was a wire pulled tight. Desert wind scraped the curtains like sandpaper. The heat had left my cheek just a warm stamp stuck in the wrong place. Ethan slept on his side, breathing like a man who's used to winning in public. I moved quietly, reached for my clutch on the back of the door, and checked the lav mic. Green light. Still there, a stubborn little firefly. In the kitchen, the espresso machine hissed. I opened a linen-covered notebook, the kind PTA moms gift each other, and titled a fresh page Operation Dust Log. I didn't need prose. I needed facts with periods. 3 columns. Date/place words/actions witness/evidence. Then I started pulling buried fragments out of memory and laying them down like spent casings in a silver tray. The time he gathered up my credit cards after a work trip, said it was for better management. The time he locked my phone for 3 days because I didn't match his tone in a text. The time he pinned my shoulders to the chair when I tried to leave a party. His fingers left crescent bruises. The time Mia asked why I never drove to base and I lied, I liked the passenger seat for the view. I photographed each page and saved them to a new folder named Wind on my phone. I don't trust the cloud. I trust chain of custody, who touched it, when and why. When the coffee finished, I heard Ethan's mother's heels in the hallway. She opened the kitchen like a cabinet. "You all right?" she asked, voice half gauze, half duct tape. "Fine," I said. She left a tin of cookies, talked about Sunday lunch, and scanned my face like an inventory sheet. I stayed quiet. My silence wasn't fear anymore, it was a scalpel. When Ethan drove Mia to school, I texted Winters code Amber received. She sent back a single star. 30 minutes later, I slid into a coffee shop near the armory. Alina Price arrived, pure Jawad white shirt, hair pulled back, eyes straight as a bullet lane. "Winters gave me the outline," she said. "I want the rest from you." I told her, clean and complete, until my hands stopped shaking. She pulled up the gala sponsorship contract from county records on her iPad and tapped a clause. Hear the morality language. Public violence that harms the sponsor's mission can undercut assets tied to a prenup under state law and the agreement itself. She looked up. To open that door, you need clear evidence, video, audio, witnesses. If there's fraud tied to public safety, even better. Courts hate fake heroes. I set the mic on the table and recapped the night. Elena ran it through a tiny reader, watched the waveform. We hear him low. Not enough by itself, but it's a piece. She handed me a list: injury photos, threat texts, company emails, flight logs, parts invoices. You were MP, she said. You know scene preservation. Your family is the scene. Back home, I opened the garage. Cold machine oil and sawdust. I ordered a small voice recorder, black plastic. WAV files clean enough for voice analysis. Tested it with an old MP report, crisp, sharp. I hid it in the pen cup on our shared desk. On the shelf, Ethan's favorite Bluetooth speaker. I flipped it over, measured the hollow enough room for a slim SSD. The thought sparked so fast it scared me. The RV out back was his mobile server, the company's second heart. If dirty money flowed, it flowed through there. That evening he came home acting like nothing happened. He held Mia longer than usual and sold her on Saturday's drone demo. Fire isn't scary if you know how. A strand of Mia's hair stuck to her cheek with sweat, and my chest clenched into a fist. Over dinner he complained that Jordan was being dramatic and that compliance paperwork was a nuisance. I put my bowl down. Jordan being thorough keeps people safe. Ethan smirked. Safety is what I sell. Paperwork is just candy wrapper. I watched the tendon in his hand rise as he gripped the table. In my head a box ticked contempt for procedure. After Mia fell asleep, Ethan took a call in the garage. I'd armed the pen recorder earlier and left it by the door. Through the crack I heard him lower his voice, words like heat sensor, threshold, unit price. Not the whole thing, but enough spine to the sentence. Don't bother testing past the spec, clients don't need the details. My eyes closed. Another piece slid into the tray. Next morning, I drove Mia to school and looped past the RV. White box reflecting blue sky, windows dark like a whale's eye. I walked up with a reverent step count. The digital lock glowed. I didn't force it. I surveyed fresh smudge prints, grit on the step, an extension cord snaking from the house outlet. I photographed the power line, a small detail to justify plugging in later without a story. Then I went inside and brewed a gallon of sweet tea. Normal is a disguise. I needed every move to look domestic, not tactical. At noon, Winters texted, "See Elena again this afternoon." I answered yes. We met in an empty STEM classroom at the community center. Kid posters, a faint marker smell. Elena laid out a protocol for injury photos, neutral background, scale card, a slip of paper with the date. No filters, she said, half joking, half not. I laughed for the first time in days. Then her voice dropped. "Riley, own your safety. If he escalates, do you have a fast exit?" "Yes," I said. "Bag ready, docs ready." Truth. The go bag had waited by the door for months like a soldier on night duty. That night, Mia and I built a paper drone on the living room floor. "Can this fly over fire?" she asked. "If it's done right," I said. "And if it's done wrong? The wind makes it a kite." She nodded, strangely satisfied. My eyes slid to the corner where the family iPad charged in a blue rubber case. Ethan likes shared devices, the symbol of trust. I opened it with the same 4-digit code he never changes. Mail app, rows of cans on a shelf. I scrolled to a company account temporarily synced. A folder labeled Phoenix with a tiny flame icon. Inside compliance, parts testing. My heart missed a beat. The garage door rumbled. Ethan home early. I locked the iPad and set it exactly where it had been. My pulse found military cadence, like a soldier hearing boots and holding formation anyway. I hugged Mia. "Tomorrow we clean the bookshelf," I whispered. She nodded without knowing. In my head, bookshelf was code where the SSD would live once I had it. I glanced at my clutch. The mic lay quiet. The future looked like a map drawn in sand. All it needed was a wind shift to make the lines appear. Cliffhanger, even with the screen dark. A ghost imprint of Phoenix/compliance lingered, just enough of a breadcrumb to tell me the door was open. Desert heat breathed on the windows even before the sun climbed past the mesas. I brewed coffee, opened Operation Dust Log, and added 2 lines: garage sensor call, don't test past specific, and iPad Phoenix/compliance scene, not downloaded. My handwriting stayed as calm as a sentry's footsteps. I'm not a writer. I'm a woman collecting ash, piece by piece, to point at the ember that started the fire. Elena met me in a shoebox law office next to the public library, bulletin board crowded with kids reading flyers and a lost gray dog. She slid a metal chair over and set down a printed gala sponsorship contract, neon highlighter slashes across the margin. Here, she said, tapping the cold, upright text, conduct that undermines the sponsor's community mission, including public violence, may void certain asset benefits and attached moral obligations in marital agreements. She looked up. If the slap is clear on video, if we show community impact, and if there's any hint of fraud tied to public safety, your prenup stops being a shackle. The word shackle rang like a chain on a barn hook. I walked her through the mic, the cheek photo, the to get list. She asked about Jordan Reyes. He's a key to safety, I said, and he's scared. Elena nodded. Fear is normal. What matters is a safe exit for anyone willing to tell the truth. She slid over to do sheet Mia's injury photos, gala audio, the demo's date, weather and wind, money flow between Ethan's company and vendors. If the pieces hold, we'll move for data preservation. But before the court and DA step in, you wrap everything you touch. I drove past the company shop. From the highway you could see inside, roll-up door, half open, faint smell of burned plastic. Ethan stood with two men, sketching a circle and a wind curve on a whiteboard. I didn't stop. I clocked the clipboard sign on the gate, demo flight, Saturday invite only. Dry ink, flat white paper. He really wanted to show off. At lunch, Captain Winters pinged a roadside diner. She was already in the back booth, beneath a high school football poster and a popcorn special. Across from her sat a young man with short hair and eyes flickering like a pilot light Jordan. He greeted me softly, gripping his water glass like a ship rail. Winters says you're someone I can trust, he said, as if he needed to hear it twice. I nodded. I won't burn you. He stared out at the dust devils. They pushed me to sign compliance on a batch of heat sensors that failed, he said. I refused twice. The third time they said if I didn't sign, the order would slip and my family in another state might have problems. His voice locked after the word problems. Winters had told me about his sister's school paperwork. Suddenly I understood how people live with bowed heads and still aren't the bad guys. I need documents, I said, not stories. He nodded and showed me a blurry screenshot, a cost sheet, a consulting fee wired to a company with a hollow, tin can name. Not a small amount. They call it consulting, he whispered, but it smells like a ghost invoice. Serial numbers on the invoice don't match the incoming parts. He slid the phone over. My heart dropped a beat, like a bass note outside the song. Bring me the original, I said. Don't email. Leave it at the community center, STEM room bottom kid shelf. Too obvious is often safest. He frowned. I smiled thin. He understood. Winters drained her coffee. Riley, you're marching inside your own house, she said. If you need a pull out, I yank you. But I know you're going to the end. She handed Jordan Elena's card, black ink, number quiet as a hotline waiting for a spark. He tucked it into his wallet like a charm. That afternoon I hit a dusty electronics store, tin and plastic smell baked into the drywall. I bought a slim SSD, mini adapter, a few short cables. The clerk asked, upgrading a gaming rig. I smiled. Yeah. Truth was, I was upgrading a private battle space. On the way home I looped past the RV, just long enough to study the power socket and vents. In my head a movement map unrolled, kitchen door to the yard, past the cactus bed, steps up, unlock, left bunk, SSD into the Bluetooth speaker, power if needed off OBD. Every step with a paired breath, like a low-light CQB drill no one else could see. That night Ethan went out with donors, leaving cologne and don't wait up on the drywall. I did wind word problems with Mia. She drew a turbine and colored the blades red. Mom, can wind rip a tent? If the stakes aren't set right, I said. Her eyes bobbed and I hated telling a child that sentence. When she slept, I armed the pen recorder and clipped it inside the shared office cabinet. Then I opened another cabinet and inventoried. The gap between cookbooks and the family album would make a decent makeshift safe. I stuck a tiny strip of tape under the shelf, lit my telltale if anyone moved it. My phone buzzed. Elena DA will take a look with 2 more things. 1 confirmed demo plus wind conditions, 2 proof of irregular money flow to a shell. I texted back, demo still Saturday. Wind looks bad. I don't always trust forecasts. I trust my eyes. The dust had been standing upright for days instead of crawling the ground. Elena replied, limit confrontation. Focus on collection. The office door opened. Ethan leaned on the jamb, smile straight from media training. Long day. He rolled my pen in his fingers like it was a weapon being weighed. Saturday'll be great. I want Mia up close so she can see. A chill walked my arms. She's a kid. Kids learn fast, he said, setting the pen down and kissing my forehead like kindness was a prop. Mint over whiskey. The cocktail of men who think they can't be touched. Near midnight I added photos to wind. The go bag laid out ID, light jacket, clotting gauze, flashlight, Mia's things. I didn't want to use it. I wanted it to exist, a trap door under the stage. I sat still and listened to the fridge click and the wind run through the vents like someone breathing behind the walls. Phone lit. Jordan, I can't sleep. I typed D. Same. A minute later a photo arrived, a corner of a computer screen, a gray wire transfer line, consulting fee into Frontier Civic Partners. Big enough to bend a spine. The metadata ghosted in the corner, date machine, intranet. Then, quick shot only. I'll bring the clean copy in person, don't reply. I stared at the numbers like a hillside catching a slow burn. I didn't reply. I set my palm on the glass like it was a door warming under my hand. Cliffhanger. 1 last text before radio's silence, 2 words, no time. Jordan's last text, no time, blinked in my head like a low oil light. The next morning the desert looked bleached, as if someone had scrubbed the sky with baking soda. From the kitchen window I watched the RV sit under the mesquite, its side panel reflecting blue so flat, it looked like a forearm laid on a clinic table. Today, I told myself, we do a checkup. The plan started with normal. I hauled out meat, corn, charcoal, set up the BBQ in the backyard. Ethan loves a weekend cookout, loves neighbors to see him as the approachable CEO. I put on low country radio, handed Mia the hose for the cactus pots, asked her to count blooms. Everything had to feel like a boring commercial you'd skip after 5 seconds. Ethan rolled in early with 2 bags of ice and a weak joke he'd borrowed from a donor. I steered Mia into the kitchen and filled a glass jar with sweet tea. Grab your drone puzzle, I told her. Flip-flops whispering, she dragged a line of dust down the hall. Out front, Ethan was already telling the neighbors about Saturday's demo, pointing at the RV as if it were a second stage. I sparked the coals. Mesquite smoke rose sweet and stuck to my hair. When the laughter at the gate hit its peak, I slid behind the RV, thin gloves, cap, dark t-shirt. I fed a power cord to the exterior outlet and pressed my ear to the panel until I caught the faint fan hum. The digital lock blinked green when I tapped a spare fob Ethan keeps in a clay dish on top of the cabinets. I'd borrowed it 2 days ago. No one noticed. The door gave with the soft metal pop of a tin lid. Inside was a control freak's field office folding desk, slim monitor, a charcoal Bluetooth speaker, a skinny file cabinet. Plastic and warm metal and a ghost of cologne. I slid to the lower cabinet and found the OBD power adapter, a test model. I plugged in a mini PC, drew juice off OBD like a medic hanging a bag. The machine vibrated once. A white LED winked. I snapped a SATA to USB cable into the company, SSD parked in a black dock. The monitor woke, and a drive name appeared, Ward Ledger. My pulse kept time with the progress bar, copy 1%, 8%, 13%. I opened my clutch, took photos, screen, cable layout, wall clock for timestamp and context. I whispered to myself like I was filling a report, date, /location, RV connected, SSD witnesses, none evidence, photos. Operation Dust Log practically filled its own boxes. Then the Bluetooth speaker chirped and flashed pairing mode. I froze. One little beep and every drop of blood in me swam for cover. I lunged for the power button, held it, still blinking, hunting for a phone it remembered. Out front, Ethan's laugh lifted. If this thing started playing something dumb, he'd come investigate. So I changed tactics, don't kill it, swallow it. I popped the back panel and slid my slim SSD into the empty cavity behind the driver, taped it down with 2 strips. You're the cocoon, I murmured. Then I renamed our home router to Mesquite Guest from the app and hit restart. A 1-minute hiccup. The speaker would blame Wi-Fi, not me. Right on cue, a neighbor groused, "Your internet sucks," and Ethan said, "We've been switching providers." I let out a breath. The bar jumped 37%, 41%. Alina's text flashed, "Be careful." I tapped my watch to silent. Out front, kids laughed a bicycle bell sound in a fake peaceful town. I opened the Phoenix folder's compliance parts, testing. I dragged compliance first. A spreadsheet launched a serial vendor, pass/fail. A red row glared, heat sensors marked fail with a note, reclass to pass customer spec diff. Whoever typed that didn't know how to be ashamed. 64%, 71%, 88%. I stretched across the desk and pulled up old flight logs. Wind speed, surface temp, humidity lined up like a patient chart. One clear over limit entry. A note beside it, "FD warned, fire department warning," with Jordan's digital signature. I snapped photos. Jordan's no time pricked like cactus spines. No time to refuse. No time to warn. Footsteps hit the RV steps. I stuffed the speaker panel back as Ethan pushed the door, smile pre-installed. "What are you doing in here?" "Degreaser for the table," I said, lifting a microfiber rag like a white flag. The kid spilled sweet tea. His eyes skimmed the screen as the bar flicked 99% to complete, and the window closed itself. My heart stopped, then restarted. "Just business." "Don't rummage," he said, TV host pleasant. "Sensitive gear in here." I nodded, slid a thigh over the USB cable. "Just cleaning." He stepped in far enough to pick up the speaker. "This thing's been glitchy." I stopped breathing. He knuckled the shell. It answered hollow, like a wooden drum. I gave him a bright nothing smile. "Probably fi. I just reset it." He smirked, set the speaker down, and turned for the door. "No surprises," he said. "Saturday has to be smooth." The latch clicked. His steps faded. I sagged into the chair, rag still in my hand. Outside, fat pops of grease on the grill sounded like hot metal cooling. I pulled the mini PC, uncoupled cables, slid the cloned SSD into the inner pocket of a thin jacket. I did the boring procedure: photos, door ajar, wall clock, USB port serial, room corner. I wrote a sticky note, checked RB, and didn't leave it. Leaving nothing is how no one knows you were there. On my way out, I cracked open drafts on the workstation. An email thread between Ethan and a supplier. "Don't send detailed specs to the client. Call it proprietary." An autosave ghost caught half a sentence he typed and deleted. "If the wind." I snapped the screen and jerked my hand back like I'd touched a kiln mouth. I locked the RV, wiped the handle, and walked into the backyard. Heat. Flipped the meat. Laughed with a neighbor. Accepted potato salad. Ethan looped an arm around my waist, the contact like a binder clip on a file. "You're amazing," he said, eyes skating over the sweat at my hairline. "Saturday dress sharp." I matched his smile, moving face muscles to the assigned positions. In my head, the checklist ticked: SSD cloned, compliance captured, wind log photographed, speaker packed with a backup drive. When the guests drifted home and the yard went quiet, Mia fell asleep on the couch holding her honey-colored bear. I carried her to bed, pulled the blanket to her chest. In the shared office, I hid the SSD behind the cookbooks, marked the shelf underside with a strip of gray cloth, my tamper seal. I pushed a second copy to a drive I'd leave with Winters. A backup to the backup. On my own laptop, I opened Phoenix/compliance and let my eyes run the grid. Ghost invoices flickered on the horizon, serials that didn't match shipments. Consulting fees flowing into Frontier Civic Partners. Description: community strategy advisory. Every line felt like ash blown into someone else's lungs. I stopped at Jordan's note: "Do not reclass. Recommend retest." Beneath it, another user's comment: "Unnecessary, client isn't asking." I closed the lid. Silence fell like a weighted blanket. Passing Maya's door, I listened to her breath, saw the little paper bandage on her elbow from last week's stare slip. How even small things can jab a mother's heart. Saturday's demo would be a steep hill. People would clap. Ethan would smile. Wind would do what wind does. If a man pokes at the margins, the machine obeys the wind, not him. I set one early alarm, just one. No point in filling a night with ticking. Before I slept, I texted Jordan I have compliance. Stay safe. No read receipt. Lights out. In the dark, the window whistled a reminder I already knew by bone: don't walk into fire with bare hands. Cliffhanger in the flight logs sat an older day with wind over limit, and the note FD warned. The date matched a small fire that jumped 3 backyards on the north side. Saturday, Ethan plans to repeat his perfectly safe show. I closed my eyes and pictured sand stinging Mia's skin like 1,000 tiny needles. The test range was a patchwork of brown earth freckled with tumbleweeds. A windsock stood in the middle, turning slow and confused, like a clock hand trying to remember north. Ethan roped off a spectator area with orange ribbon, set 2 folding tables with display models, water jugs, and a big sign that read safety is priority #1. I pulled my cap low and kept Mia behind the ribbon with me. Donors arrived in spotless boots, polarized sunglasses flashing like lake water. Ethan stepped up like a stage magician, handheld mic in the wind today, you'll see technology tame fire. I studied the setup: aluminum launch stand with folding legs, thermal plate, controller on a tripod, a monitor showing wind speed and surface temp. The drone was silver, 4 shrouded rotors, a mist canister slung in the belly. I checked the corner of the screen: wind spiking, then settling, then spiking again. In Operation Dust log I'd already written, wind recommended limit. I pressed my lips together. Ethan glanced back like he could read that line in my head, then smiled for the crowd. We've tested worse scenarios, he said, hitting the last 2 words like a kid bragging. The motors whirred as the drone rose, dust pushing out in a thin halo. Ethan flew it clean, the silver body holding axis like a hawk holding a ridge. He preached layers of protection, fail-safes, wind comp algorithms proven in the field. I said nothing and counted blade cycles. Mia squeezed my hand. Mom, it looks like a giant dragonfly. I nodded and let a calming smile pass over her face and drop to the ground. A hard gust hit like somebody shoved a wall. The drone skewed a notch, Ethan corrected, public smile still tight. I heard myself say, barely above the wind, don't boost. I don't know if he heard. He wanted to impress a donor up at the ribbon. His thumb tapped the switch on the stick. The pitch of the rotors jumped sharper, meaner. The drone arced high and pretty for 3 seconds, then the wind bent it like straw. One rotor bit a spray of grit scraping noise like stone on steel wool. A door swung open in the air. A small panel from the fuselage popped free, changed direction with the gust, and flashed a razor edge in the sun. I yanked Mia down, but the shard had already skimmed her forearm, leaving a thin red line like thread under skin. Mia sucked a breath, delicate as a grain of sand dropped in a glass. I clamped gauze from my pocket over the cut and held steady pressure. In the dirt a few steps inside the ribbon, the shard lay shining like a lost tooth. We're fine, just a scrape, Ethan called, voice pitched to manage the crowd. Kids, you know. He didn't come over. My hands went cold, then hot, then cold again. I checked the monitor, wind was over. I pulled my phone, shot a photo of Mia's cut with one hand while holding the gauze with the other. I flipped on GPS, framed the shard in the dirt with the ribbon in view, and picked it up by a corner of the napkin like a casing at a crime scene. Mia bit her lip, tears lining up silently. I see it, I whispered. I see you. Somewhere deep in me, a pin pulled. Donors buzzed like a hive cracked open. One man asked, so where's the fail-safe? Ethan smirked and built a line, if you want to see fail-safe, you wait for the post-flight data. He brought the drone down, a wobble before touchdown. I moved Mia into the shade of a pickup. My hands barely shook, discipline doing most of the work where panic wanted in. I opened my mini kit: rinse, gauze, date sticker. I laid a small white strip over the cut and wrote date location in ballpoint. Then I propped my phone on the tailgate, switched to front camera, framed both of us, and read one clean sentence: we're at Ward Aerial's test range. High wind, a detached panel scratched Mia's arm. Saved it to the wind folder. I called Alina. She picked up and I said, phase 2, 2 words, no more. 10 Mia first, she answered. Then the drop. I scanned, chose the first aid tent behind a shipping container. Inside water, cotton, antiseptic. I washed the cut, blew lightly, counted breaths with Mia until her shoulders came down. I slid the shard into a zip bag and wrote ward demo fragment on it. Never thought I'd write those words on a pretty day. When we came back out, Ethan had switched to crowd calming mode, photos, handshakes, beers at the town bar later. He glanced at the bandage on Mia's arm, shrugged like it was a grass stain. "Tonight we celebrate," he said, eyes still scanning donors. I nailed the trained smile and carried Mia to the car. In the rear view, dust rose behind our tires like smoke. I drove to Alina's, dropped the lot behind a clinic near the armory. She was there, hair up, evidence kit in hand. "You okay?" "We're okay, Surface Nick," I said. She checked the bandage and nodded. She walked me through clean documentation, neutral background, small-scale ruler, a paper with the date. My hands remembered the duty motion. Shard, zip bag, ribbon in the frame. She set it in a box labeled, signed, and had me sign the chain of custody. The ritual felt like baptizing the truth. "Wind was over," I said. He boosted to show off. Alina wrote, "Tonight I file for data preservation and a partial freeze on the Phoenix accounts," she said. "Plenty of public witnesses today. But I still need the flight log and a screen image of conditions." I handed her the shot I'd snuck of the monitor. She scanned it and nodded. Enough to knock. Leaving the clinic, I texted Winter's rain's coming. She replied with a single exclamation point. I wanted to head straight home, but the feeling of being tailed crawled the back of my neck. I took an extra loop, changed lanes twice, then turned into our tract. On the way, Jordan called wind and engine noise chewing the line. Riley, his voice broke like there was sand in it. They changed permissions. I'm locked out of compliance, but I have a reconciliation sheet on my personal serials, visis invoices, visis shipments. It proves ghost invoices. I kept the wheel steady like it was a narrow bridge. "Meet me at the community center STEM room. Act like you're returning a book. Bottom shelf blue bin. I'll fetch it later," he exhaled. "Tonight a beat. Someone may ask you questions. Don't text back." I parked at a corner and lowered the window. Wind reached into the car like a hand in a music box. Mia was asleep in the back, cheek on a travel pillow. I set my forehead on the wheel for a second, then looked up. Phase 2 wasn't just paperwork. It was survival mode. I reviewed the photos: wound, shard, wind screen, and tapped stars. I backed them up to the SSD in the bookshelf and sent a second set to Eliana over the encrypted app she'd installed. When we pulled in, Ethan was already on the step, beer case by his foot, smile hung like a porch ornament. "People loved the demo," he said, like announcing good weather. His eyes dropped to Mia's bandage, then to me, the look that asks, "What are you going to do about it?" I looked back with a face flat as glass. "Late dinner," I said. "She needs sleep." He shrugged, cracked a beer, the pop like a finger snap. Night fell. I tucked Mia in, placed her bare in the bend of her arm. I stood in the doorway and listened to my own heartbeat. Not fast, not slow. Even the way my fingers tap each line into Operation Dust Log. The phone buzzed. "Jordan on my way. USB ready." The text vanished like it had been pulled back. A second later, a photo lit the screen, one corner of the reconciliation sheet, enough to see the serial mismatch, and Frontier Civic Partners in the right-hand column. I swallowed and felt the desert go quiet for one beat. "Cliffhanger," Jordan called again, the wind slicing the words. "Riley, listen, inside Phoenix/compliance there's a master reconciliation. If you get that, it's done. But they changed permissions. I'll leave a printout at the STEM room. If I don't make it, someone else will." The call clipped. The line filled with sand-scrape silence. I gripped the phone and stared toward the community center, seeing in my mind that stained glass door and the low kid shelf like the last short wall between me and the truth. Morning opened with wind clawing the tin roof and a faint burn of pine, like somebody lit a bad idea and snuffed it out halfway. I sat at the kitchen table and checked Operation Dust Log, pinning 3 new entries: injury photos, chain of custody, drone shard, zip plus label, windscreen photo filed in wind. I shut the notebook as my phone lit up. Alina texted like issuing an op order, filing data preservation, plus freeze on Phoenix funds today. Once the court signs, I'll serve Ward Ariel in their morning meeting. Winters will move you and Mia safely. Camille Hart gets the anonymous packet to keep public pressure up. Ready, I replied. It felt exactly like the day a drill turns real, every motion rehearsed, skin prickling, because one slip sounds like metal breaking. I packed for Mia a light jacket, yarn hair doll, a comic book. I used the voice of a mother who refuses to pour fear into the breakfast milk. We're going to Captain Winters's later. Tea, cookies, and a disc-catching dog. Mia smiled. Innocence tapped the air like a wind chime. By noon, Winters texted 10 minutes out. I checked the SSD tucked behind the cookbook's gray tape seal, still clean. I snapped a quick photo shelf tape date card. Not because I doubt Winters. Because I've lived too long in a house where things shift without a sound. Her SUV rolled up. The back door swung and Shelby's head popped out, grinning. Mia laughed. I lifted my girl, locked the house, and listened to the soft tack of the deadbolt, the same sound that used to feel like reins on my neck. Meanwhile, Elena pinged a photo, lobby angle of ward aerial, clipboard by the doorboard briefing 14th floor. Men in stiff collars and razor ties under LED glare. Judge signed, she wrote. I'm going in 15. I watched desert dust hop under Winters's tires like minnows under a skiff. Camille called on a masked number. I have the packet. Anonymous? Yes. I'll cross-check wind logs, injury photos, ghost invoices. If we run it, it's for public safety. She didn't sound like a vulture. She sounded like someone with the right amount of anger to do a job right. I wasn't in the conference room, but I could see it: neutral cleaner, cold LEDs, scentless glass water jugs. Elena opening a briefcase, preservation order, account freeze, 18 months of flight logs. Her voice would tick like a clock. Mr. Ward, you've been served. Any deletion from this point forward is obstruction. At the other end of the table, Ethan would smile the way people smile for a flash. I know that smile. It tastes like metal. Winters got us to the temp apartment near the armory, sand-colored curtains, rough weave chairs, the clean quiet of a place with no memories. Sandwiches with pickles. Shelby breathing under the table. I logged in, sent encrypted copies to Elena, checked metadata twice. I let space between steps so my heart didn't run like a compressor. Phone lit Jordan. USBs in the blue bin stem room. A shovelful of sand slid off my chest. You safe. No read receipt. Camille messaged a draft headline companies saying one thing, doing another. Hero image of a baked test range and a ribbon orange as dried blood. No kid names, she wrote. Just a child scratched by debris at a public demo. Early afternoon, Elena video called from Winters's living room, the window behind her a sheet of dusty sky. Phase 1's done, she said. Freeze is live. Company counsel's phones are a hive. They'll try to volley, but data's sealed. Next, I'm seeking a narrow warrant for the RV and accounting room. How's Ethan? I asked. She tilted a smile. He smiled, then locked up, then called IT. IT read the seal and looked at me like I was a black box. I didn't laugh. I thanked her for standing there with a spine that doesn't shake. Afternoon lay flat. Winters stacked dominoes with Mia and knocked them on purpose to earn a giggle. I slipped to the bedroom and rechecked the go bag ID, cash, flashlight, gauze, light robe. Mia's bare. An old MP line floated up: visible hazards kill once, invisible ones kill all week. I'm done living a whole week like that. We ate chicken soup and watched a high school football program. I put Mia down early. Just when the night looked like a blank page, the air changed. Ethan called. I stared at his name until the ring chopped into the room. I tapped record on the pen recorder. Its little green eye blinked awake. His voice poured out warm as butter left on a porch. You took our kid to Winters? Yeah. I miss her silence. Then black ink spilled into the glass. Riley, you're breaking something you don't understand. I kept still. He pushed. You think papers knocked me down? I built this. I feed this town. MP muscle memory slid my spine upright. The court sealed your data, Ethan. Don't delete. Don't turn an investigation into obstruction. He gave that small laugh, fingernails on plastic. You'll lose your kid if you keep playing hero. The wall clock ticked once. I watched the pen's red dot blink. Don't call again, I said. He said, 22:40, I'll be at your door. The line died. I stood in the dark kitchen, palm still on the table. Winters stepped into the doorway without a light. I heard enough, she said. From now on, everything routes through Alina. A patrol swings by hourly. If he shows, they'll be in the lot waiting. I nodded. Her hand settled on my shoulder. It wasn't an order. It was one rope taking hold of another so neither drifts. I checked on Mia hair fan like a propeller. I saved the file as Ethan Threat 2240 and pushed it straight into Alina's encrypted vault. Text it, he said. 2240. She fired back, immediately archived. Forwarding to County PD, requesting temporary protective order. I breathed slow. The desert was so dry I could hear the doorframe breathe. Every sound a question. Every question had the same answer: hold your position. Just when I thought the storm had skirted us, my phone blinked again. Jordan, heads up. Someone's pulling community center camera feeds. USB is in the blue bin. Grab it early. I checked the clock and traced a route that doesn't pass the house. Winters listened and nodded. Go now. Be back before 2240. I'll tail you one light bar back. We zipped jackets, eased the door, stepped into wind. The moon hung like a dented silver coin. I parked against the curb outside the community center. Lobby lights flickered like tired eyelids. The STEM room lay dim. I slid in, palm skimming the cabinet tops, found the low blue bin, and there sat the USB, plain as a peppermint on a host's stand. In the corner, a camera pivoted a hair, like even it had to swallow. I slipped the drive into my inner pocket right as a long, narrow shadow stamped itself on the glass door and stopped silent as a nail hammered straight into the night. The courthouse morning smelled like floor cleaner and freshly opened paper. I sat beside Elena, palm resting on the case folder the way you rest a hand on your chest to feel a heartbeat. Across the aisle, Ethan adjusted his tie smile already staged for the press. His attorney polished phrases about community impact and innovative tech, words shiny as a granite lobby. Alina began like a metronome. Your Honor, we submit 1 Gila video showing public violence, 2 injury photos of a minor with full metadata, 3 a recorded threat, 4 flight logs exceeding wind limits, 5 a reconciliation proving ghost invoices and funds flowing to Frontier Civic Partners, 6 Jordan raises testimony that he was pressured to reclass to pass, 7 the morality clause in the sponsorship contract. 1 exhibit at a time, 1 clerk's nod, 1 pen line in the minutes. The gala video lit the screen amber lights, the clink of silverware, the clean, unmistakable slap. The room held its breath. Opposing counsel rose, an accidental gesture. Alina advanced to the still frame. My cheek flushed, timestamp, coordinates. Then the drone shard in a zip bag on a steel tray, Mia's scratch with a paper ruler, the windscreen photo with that orange ribbon in frame. Alina didn't raise her voice. She just counted the truth. The flight logs came next. The tech patched in and the numbers breathed like the desert wind speed, surface temperature, that note FD warned. A fire department lieutenant took the stand. We warned Ward Ariel about wind conditions that day, he said. We recommended postponement. They did not postpone. Defense called it a reasonable technical choice. The lieutenant met his eyes. Whose standard? Not ours. The court recorder bit down on the sentence like a clamp. Jordan testified, hands steady enough to understand what it cost him. Did you take money? The defense asked. No, he said. I was pressured to sign compliance on heat sensors that failed. I refused. Then my access was changed. Alina produced the printout Jordan had left on the STEM room's blue shelf. Serials on incoming parts didn't match serials on the invoices. Right-hand column consulting fee to Frontier Civic Partners. I saw Ethan's throat twitch like a string tuned too tight. Then the threat recording. The room shrank a size. His voice spilled ink into the air. You'll lose your kid if you keep playing hero. You can hear me on the tape, level and dry. Do not obstruct the investigation. Alina, that call, paired with the gala video, triggers the morality clause. It undercuts the prenup's asset protections. Defense tried, marriage is private. Alina pointed at the paused frame of me being slapped. An entire hall turned to look. This is public. Finance followed. A forensic analyst clicked to a flowchart. Frontier Civic Partners, no employees, soaks up consulting fees, then drains to 2 accounts in other states. Classic flow diversion, he said. Speculation. Defense snapped. Alina set down an auto-save draft from the RV, half a deleted line if the wind. Not speculation, she said. A hand caught mid-wipe. Captain Winters took the stand in a plain dress, fedora on the chair. I know Sergeant Bennett as disciplined, and as a mother who puts safety over pride. She keeps records like military police. Everything she's done these 6 weeks was to protect a child and the community. Her voice never shook. I could hear the training field in it. My turn. I testified like I write reports short, accurate, with anchors. I didn't describe how the slap felt. I described camera 3, the lav mic in my clutch, the dated bandage, the shard lifted with a napkin edge, the SSD behind the cookbooks, gray tape telltale, the USB from the blue bin. The 2240 call. A woman in the back row blinked slowly and set a hand over her heart, as if to keep it in place. Arguments burned like noon sun. They tried to cast me as an angry wife inflating a slap. They tried to restore Ethan as a hero under attack. Whenever the rhetoric got slippery, Alina threw a cleat photo, log, audio, recon sheet. Each cleat clicked into a deck fitting. I felt a knot unlock at the base of my skull. The judge read the ruling clear and cold as water poured into glass. The court finds public violence and threats. The morality clause in the sponsorship contract applies. The prenup is partially void as to assets tied to Phoenix. Temporary custody is granted to Mrs. Bennett. A protective order is issued. Given indicia of obstruction, permission changes, and attempted deletion, the matter is referred to the district attorney. The words temporary custody dropped like an anchor finding rock. Ethan lurched up, muttering about conspiracies and traitors. 2 deputy marshals closed in professional, hands low, presence high. Alina indicated the order. They cuffed him. The click was so small it would have vanished if the room hadn't gone quiet. He looked back, eyes lit with a cold fire. "This isn't over," he hissed. I didn't answer. Some lines deserve nothing but a red dot. In the lobby, desert wind slapped my face like someone splashed water. Camille Hart waited, no mic in my mouth, just a nod that said, "I get it." My phone buzzed an email from her editor with a lawyer-scrubbed draft. The headline spoke of ignored wind warnings, children and community risk. I thought about the backyard fences that had scorched up north, parents gripping garden hoses with shaking hands. Winters stood with me, eyes on the door where they'd taken Ethan. "Back to the apartment," she said. "Not the last fight. But the big one for today is done." I nodded. On the steps, a woman I'd never met squeezed my hand without speaking. Maybe I'll never know her name. The squeeze felt like a stamp on the quiet roads I hadn't officially named yet. Evening settled slow. In the Armory apartment, Mia yawned on the couch while Shelby set his chin on her knees. I opened my laptop. Alina's message, "DA has the file." Criminal investigation opened. "You're safe for now." I closed the lid and listened to a distant firefighting helicopter comb the sky, sweeping for leftover sparks. Cliffhanger. My phone lit. "Jordan, thank you. But the shop's packed. They're looking for whoever leaked the reconciliation. I'm okay, just wanted you to know. Keep Mia safe." I watched my daughter sleep and felt my heart set down and rise up at once, 2 tides in one chest. I whispered, "Tomorrow I'll name this road." The days after smelled like fresh detergent, sunlight pouring thin across the wood floor. The temp apartment near the Armory had no history, so my footsteps sounded like someone learning to walk again. I strung a line of warm yellow bulbs along the window and clipped small wooden pins to it. Each pin held a page Mia's school calendar, a grocery list, a postcard from the fire crew that read, "Thanks for speaking up. I reread that line the way you reread a vow, so simple it can't lose." In the mornings I set towels on the rail to dry. The desert still curled the air, but the scent of resin was lighter, like a stove wiped clean. I brewed tea, sat at the table, and opened Operation Dust Log. The first pages were the color of fear in straight lines. The middle pages were the color of procedure and discipline. Near the end, my handwriting finally stopped shaking. I added one last line, "Quiet roads, safe paths for military families." I slid the chair aback and heard the letters click against each other like 2 pieces of metal mending. I started small, a poster on the community board with only a QR code to an anonymous inbox and a prepaid phone number. I borrowed the rec room on Thursday nights, set out a water jug, some cookies, a whiteboard that said, If you need to, just sit. No names. No full stories. Come if you come. Week 1 there were 2 people. Week 2 there were 4. A BX clerk with marker stains on her fingers. A combat engineer's girlfriend with a silicone ring and a rough little laugh. We shared stories like a pinch of salt small, but it gives everything flavor. Winters stopped by and didn't talk much. She handed me a cardboard box, a few rolls of glow tape, 2 paint pens, and a stack of hotline cards. For marking exits, she said. I smiled, thinking of night drill's arrows taped low so even a crouched body can see. Exits now live in living rooms, I said. She nodded, eyes soft as a tree's shade over the PT field. Alina checked in weekly by short email, the narrow RV warrant executed. The company's backup server sealed. Frontier Civic Partners confirmed as a shell, the DA stitching charges for fraud and public endangerment. I didn't count court days. I marked nights when Mia laughed at cartoons and mornings when she poured milk without spilling. I didn't want my life to be a waiting calendar. I wanted it back as a trail quiet enough for soft shoes. One afternoon, Jordan Reyes stood on the porch with a cardboard box. He glanced over his shoulder like someone still listening for a wind shift, then smiled steady this time. They're auditing everything, he said. Part Camille's piece, part the court seals. I didn't get fired. Maybe they realized keeping the guy who knows the system makes less noise. I waved him in. Inside the box, a kid-safe drone kit, soft shrouds, non-sparking rotors. For Mia, he said. So she knows machines can be gentle. A rock lifted off my chest. Your sister? Good. School acceptance came. We knocked knuckles, quiet contract signed. Thursday, quiet roads got busier. Some came with kids. Some left a photo of a bruised wrist and nothing else. We ran simple safety packs, backup documents, a go bag that actually fits in a closet, a tiny tape mark where you'll stash the drive, 3 numbers you can dial without thinking. I told them about the clutch, the lav mic, the rule about not drinking when you need every sense awake. I didn't say Ethan's full name. We don't make men into storybook monsters. We draw maps out of the woods. On wind-heavy nights, Mia and I listened to the window tremble and counted to 4, then exhaled same cadence I taught her before a shot. Sometimes she asked, why does the wind change? Because the mountains and the valley change how they talk to each other, I said. She thought about it. So if we stand where the talking is soft, we're safe. I kissed her hair, cheap shampoo, honest smell. Yeah, and we'll learn to listen. At noon one day I took Mia to the PT field behind the armory concrete track, rope frames. Up above, a firefighting helicopter crossed the sky, its black belly drawing an ink line through the heat. Mia waved like it was a giant bird. I watched it and realized big metal things know how to bow to gravity, carry water by sling, drop it where it should go, not make the people under them panic. Machines aren't the enemy. People standing in the wrong place are. That evening I sat on the balcony with Winters, each of us with a cold can. The wind was tame, like a dog home from its walk. I'm thinking about a tagline for quiet roads, I said. Maybe slip in quiet, live loud. Winters snorted. Sounds like a high school team motto. She smiled anyway, then got serious. Fine. As long as slipping in quiet stays the rule. She passed me a key, a small room at the community center. Now ours every Thursday. This key isn't for locking people in, she said. It's for opening, when they're ready. The next night Camille Hart pinged a clip, the fire lieutenant saying the line I'd copied in my log, whose standard. Not ours. I played it again and understood some sentences. Once said, the whole town hears them. That's the moment you cross the silence threshold. I thanked her. She replied, see you at the community safety night next month. No gala, just flashlights and escape maps. Late, I inventoried the bookshelf. The SSD still snug behind cookbooks, gray tape unbroken. I don't need it daily. I keep it like a panic light in the kitchen drawer, hope never to flip it, never remove the batteries. On another shelf, the kid drone Jordan brought sat quiet as a sleeping moth. Mia stuck a smiley sticker on its nose. So it looks friendly, she said. I didn't stop her. A tool can be a hammer or a tent stake. Depends on the hand. Some nights I lay awake, listening to the tick of a clock that didn't rush me. I remembered the hearing, the click of handcuffs, the hiss, this isn't over. Life doesn't flatten just because a gavel falls. I keep my therapy appointments. I'm learning to say, I'm scared, and I'm not running. I practice looking into the mirror and believing the eyes looking back belong to someone who can lift a kid with one arm and brace a room with the other. One evening I walked Mia along the string of streetlights outside our building 1930 sun off the sidewalk, a warm stripe left on the back of a bench. Mia hopped the painted squares, counting bricks like stars. I held her hand light, sure like holding a bridge cable. Far off, a helicopter crossed again, no bigger than a sesame seed. Hear that? I asked. Hear what? The sound of peace. She smiled like she did. Maybe she only heard leaves. That works too. Sometimes peace is just wind without smoke. Back home I opened the Quiet Roads page I'd built. 3 messages already, one for legal questions, one asking for a safe couch for the night, one that said, I'm not ready to talk, but I'll come look. I answered each slowly. No pushing, no saving. Just lanterns set along the route. Whoever's walking will see them. I switched off the living room light and left the string lights glowing. Each wooden pin a breath, each slip of paper a life, each tiny bulb saying we're still here. Outside, the desert stayed wide and the wind kept changing, and the stories weren't done. Inside this room, the safe trail was open, and I could find the way with my eyes closed. I leaned back and listened to my heart. Not fast, not slow. Even like a firefighting rotor fading in the distance, like the footsteps of someone who isn't running anymore, just moving forward.